The St. Louis Cardinals lose 3 of 4 in LA after a fantastic start by Steven Matz gets erased by a Dodgers comeback victory against the bullpen on Sunday Night Baseball. This is Locked on Cardinals.
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Haffern, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked on Cardinals, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio. You can follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked on Cardinals your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Come on by, like, subscribe, and comment, and interact with us. Hit the notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. 5 outs. 5 outs. 5 outs away from, I know it's not the sexiest thing in the world, but a series split against the Dodgers would have been nice. That would have been good. I mean, the Cardinals came into Sunday night's game against the Dodgers feeling much better about themselves after getting the extra innings win on Saturday, which was a hell of a lot of fun to watch. That was an entertaining baseball game. So many weird things go on in that one. Odd things, catcher's interferences. We got balks. We got all kinds of weird stuff going on. But there was just kind of an energy going into Sunday night's game as if a huge weight was lifted off of the Cardinals' shoulders after all the hoopla basically surrounding the Dodgers coming into the series. I mean, all off season, all week leading up to the series, all you've heard was how unbeatable the Dodgers are. And for good reason. I'm not knocking them. I mean, they are a fantastic team. They got an elite top of the order. Mookie Betts hardly ever gets out. I don't know what he's hitting now, but he was just destroying everything. Even his outs were hit pretty hard. He's just locked in. Shohei Ohtani, who didn't do all that much in this series, but still quite an imposing person right there, batting second behind Mookie, who's on base all the time. Then you got Freddie Freeman. Then you got Will Smith. And then in the lower half of the order, no slouches there either with guys like Teoscar Hernandez and Max Muncy, who kicked the Cardinals in the proverbial beanbag over and over again in this series, man. They were tough. And as good as their lineup is, the starting pitchers were even better. You know, the trio of Tyler Glasnow, Bobby Miller, who was crazy impressive on Friday night, and then Yoshinobu Yamamoto just dominated the Cardinals in the first 3 games. Those three combined over those first 3 games through 16 innings allowed just 6 hits, 1 run, struck out 21 hitters. The 1 run, if you're wondering, was the solo homer by Goldie against Glasnow. I mean, watching him, you're just like, how does this team lose? If you're going to get starting pitching like that pretty much every time you go out there, how is this team going to lose very many ball games? It's not going to happen very often. Even tonight's starter, Gavin Stone, was pretty darn good. 5 innings, 3 runs, struck out 6. The whole striking out the first 3 hitters of the game. All right, can we put a stop to that? All right, Cardinals, just bunt or do something. Put the ball in play. But to have the first 3 hitters go down in order via strikeout 3 games in a row, like, can we not do that? That's not fun. I didn't have fun watching that portion of the game. The Cardinals were underdogs in this series. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I know we want our teams to win each and every time they go out there, but the Cardinals are not expected to beat the Dodgers. They're just not. On paper, they're a better team. In person, they're just a better team. You know, they're going to be favorites against pretty much every team in the league except maybe the Atlanta Braves. I mean, Baltimore Orioles are really good, but when are you going to pick somebody over the Dodgers? Like, when's that going to happen? Not very often. And the Cardinals were just 5 outs away from splitting the series with them. And unfortunately, a familiar issue pops up again tonight, an issue that they fell victim to a lot last year. And that was a depleted bullpen blowing a lead and ultimately the game. The Cardinals got some crap news today. Very disheartening to hear about Riley O'Brien, this sucks, man. One of the bright spots and additions to the bullpen this offseason announced he will be out with a right forearm flexor tendon strain. Not great, Bob. He'll be eligible to return on April 13th, but I haven't seen an update on the severity of the strain yet. There's, I think, normally like 3 different severities. 1 is mild. 2 is like, we'll see how he is. 3 is like, pop, you're going into, surgery and you're done. I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't a little bit nervous and a little concerned hearing the news. You also have Keenan Middleton, who's out with an injury right now, which has kept him out since March 7th, but we did get some good news about him. So we'll share that with you here a little bit later. But, we hope Riley O'Brien is not gone for a considerable amount of time. You just never know how these things are going to work out. But that's 2 very important pieces to your reconstructed bullpen already out of the picture. And then on top of that, you had the extra innings game on Saturday night, which because of the rain, saw the Cardinals have to burn through more pitchers than they wanted to. Lance Lynn was throwing good, but they had to burn through Matthew Liberatore and JoJo Romero, 2 best pitchers from the left side, plus Ryan Helsley and Giovanni Gallegos. Andrew Kittredge threw an inning on Saturday as well, but he was able to toss one on Sunday too. But, here we are again. Bullpen is a bit thin because of use and injury, which means the Cardinals had to dip into AAA already and bring up John King, who, let's be honest, did not have a good spring. He wasn't very good. There's a reason why he failed to make the initial 26-man roster. He got beat out by other people. So that's right. In game 4 of the season of 162 games, your bullpen is already relying on a minor league arm to get you to the finish line against the friggin' Los Angeles Dodgers. Not a great spot for Ollie in the club. But what else was he going to do? And people were commenting and getting all upset. Ollie, what are you doing bringing this guy in? If Libby and Romero are both unavailable, Libby threw 2 innings. Romero's been used twice already. And Palante, who is your right-hander who can get lefties out, is the guy that you're pulling from the game because he's done. Then King is all you have left in the cupboard. And it ended up being the big play of the game as Max Muncy blasts a hanging slider from John King on the inner half of the plate over the wall and right for a 2-run shot in the 8th inning to give the Dodgers the lead. And ultimately, they go on to win the game 5-4. What I'm betting on is that Ollie was hoping for Palante to be able to get through those 2 innings. He was really hoping he'd make it through both innings. And, because he had a really strong 7th inning where he just kind of breezed through on just 12 pitches. Got through Mookie Betts, got through Shohei, looked great. But Teoscar Hernandez, who was a thorn in the Cardinals side in this series, takes him deep. Then he walks Chris Taylor, so Ollie's ready to pull him. And with the only lefty-lefty matchup left in the bullpen for him, here comes John King. And it didn't work. Definitely a frustrating loss, considering you were up 4-0 at one point. And Matz was cruising until the 6th inning when he gave up doubles to Ohtani. And guess who? Teoscar Hernandez. According to Ollie after the game, because people were wondering why is he pulling Matz already? After the game, Ollie told reporters that Matz was on an 80-pitch cap. So that's why he got pulled. They had taken him as far as they could. They're trying to ease him into the season to avoid any injury so they can have him on the field more than they have had him in the past couple of seasons. So they're being a little bit cautious with him. I can respect that. That's why he got pulled. Okay. And I'm sure it sucked knowing that at 80 pitches he was done after knowing that your bullpen is a little bit depleted. And I'm sure there will be discussion on the use of certain pitchers in this series, like where was Ryan Fernandez? Never saw the field. Why? What is that? Why is he not available? Why are we throwing this guy? But the rain out plus the blown save on Saturday cost the Cardinals a lot of extra arms, which led to the situation they fell into tonight. I'm not trying to give you excuses. I'm just relaying the information of why things went down the way they did tonight. And when you got Max Muncy against John King, you're going to take the Max Muncy side of things 99 out of 100 times, probably 100 out of 100 times. That you would bet that Max Muncy's probably going to do something good there. I mean, he's good. He's got a lot of power, and he's swinging a hot bat here at the beginning of the season. So I want to talk more about the series as a whole. We'll talk about the offense. We'll talk more about the pitching and stuff. Plus, we've got the injury updates on a lot of the other key players that the Cardinals have started the season without. We'll do that next on Locked On Cardinals. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament, whether you're betting on a big upset or a number one seed, which is still happening. It's time to go dancing on America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So the Final Four is set. We've got it ready to go. They're going to be in Glendale, Arizona. That's where the Final Four takes place. And you've got two number one seeds left. You got Purdue, you got UConn. You've got the Cinderella story of the number 11 seed NC State still going strong. And then number 4 seed Alabama, who nobody's talking about, is also in there. Purdue with their big man, Zach Edey. Dude is just an absolute beast. They get the Wolfpack in game 1 on Saturday, followed by the defending champion Huskies, who have just been crushing people against the Crimson Tide. Both Purdue and UConn are big-time favorites for obvious reasons. They're number 1 seeds. What a clash that would be for the championship if it ended up happening between the Boilermakers and the Huskies. I mean, that would be an enjoyable game to watch, but you can't overlook extremely hot NC State team coming in and an Alabama team that's played really, really well. So get in on the action now with FanDuel. Again, $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all with these guys if your first $5 bet wins. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume because of all the shouting? Well, then make the switch to Locked On Sports today, where you don't have to deal with that. A free 24/7 sports streaming channel, and it's programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis. We've got opinions. We've got news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Again, thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Leave your comments on YouTube in the comments section. I'm sure we'll get plenty of them. I can't wait to see how many Fire Mo, Fire Ollie, Where's Trevor Bauer. I'm sure we're going to get all of the normal guys that do that over and over, but I really want your insight on your thoughts of what you thought about this series, some things you would change, how you would have used the bullpen maybe differently, what you thought about the lineups and stuff that Ali was putting out there. Not a lot of change in those 3 of the 4 games. I think it was the same starting lineup, same batting order, didn't make any moves whatsoever. So let me know your thoughts on those things. Love to hear from you. The Cardinals offense, we know it wasn't very good in the spring. Struggled a lot. Just never really found that sweet spot. You know, you had a game here or there where things were all right, I guess. But for the most part, it was not great. And so far this season, the struggles have continued for pretty much everybody. But a number of guys really, really struggled in this one. Now, granted, the Dodgers threw some absolute studs at the Cardinals in the first 3 games, and they've got an incredible pitching staff. Like, they're really, really good. Cardinals were able to do some damage against the bullpen every time they got in there. But for the most part, the Dodgers had their number. But, you know, you can't just go into a series and go, hey, you guys are really good, and, oh, well, I guess we're going to lose. You know, these are major league hitters, and we can't just, you know, hand them milk and cookies and give them hugs and tell them it's going to be all right. You did your best. No, they're paid to hit. They're paid to perform, no matter who is on the mound. So you got to go out there and do what you can do. And some of the offensive numbers through these first 4 games just hideous. Let's go with that word. Hideous is a good word. Nolan Arenado hitting 63 to start the season. He's 1 for 16, and he looks lost at the plate, just like he did to start the season last year. I don't know what the hell is going on with him when these seasons start, and he is just looks clueless up there. He's only struck out once, but his swings look so awkward. It's just like he's not picking up the ball. I don't know if he needs glasses or I don't know. But it sucks considering he began the spring like red hot out of the gate, like was smashing the ball. And then he slowly deteriorated and went into another one of these funks, and he's still in it as we start 2024. Now, Nolan normally breaks out of these things after a couple of weeks, but It's just, you're already facing really good competition here to start the season, and you don't need Nolan Arenado looking terrible at the plate when you go up against these guys. You want to have your best guys, firing on all cylinders to start the year, and Nolan ain't doing it. Jordan Walker hitting 100, 1 for 10 in the series. Eduardo Perez, so on the ESPN broadcast tonight, did a nice breakdown of Walker during one of his at-bats, and he was talking about Jordan Walker's hips. Now, Jordan Walker has an open stance already. If you've ever watched him hit, he's already got the open stance there. And Eduardo Perez was talking about how he was pointing out how he's pulling his hips and trying to pull everything, which is leaving him vulnerable on the outside portion of the plate. And even as huge as Jordan Walker and as long as his arms are, if you're out in front on the outside pitch and you're trying to pull everything, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just not. So instead, they were pointing out the obvious, that he needs to be looking to drive that ball to the opposite field. Somebody who does that very, very well is Wilson Contreras. And until he does that, he's going to just see a steady diet of pitches away. They're just going to eat him alive out there. So Jordan's going to have to make the adjustment. I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll come around to it and get to it. He's been a great hitter his entire life. I don't know why all of a sudden things would change. So he's going to work on that. Speaking of Wilson Contreras, not a great start. 1 for 10, hitting 100. Outside of the 3-hit game on opening day, Paul Goldschmidt had just 1 hit the rest of the series. Nolan Gorman has already struck out 9 times. That's right, 9 times, with 4 times in Sunday's game. And, we say the trade-off, it's okay. You'll put up with the strikeouts when the ball's flying over the wall in other at-bats. Well, it didn't. And it wasn't flying out of the Dodger Stadium at all for the Cardinals in this series. So, which when you're not hitting home runs and you're striking out a lot, those strikeouts stand out a whole lot more, don't they? Because you're not even putting the ball in play at this point. And yeah, I know it's only 4 games into the season. I understand that. But the Cardinals leave LA with the worst team batting average in the major leagues right now at 173. They've got just 1 home run, that Goldie one, tied for worst with the Minnesota Twins. They've struck out 43 times, which is the 4th highest amount, but it looks even worse when you remember that the Dodgers, who are in first with the most strikeouts, have played 2 more games than the Cardinals already. So they'd be 3rd behind the Pirates and the Mariners overall. They're 3rd to last in OBP. They're last in slugging. They're last in OPS. And when the season started, we all knew that the Cardinals were going to have to rely on this offense, which last year was really, really good until the injuries started happening and the season went in the toilet. And then they had a bunch of people you've never heard of starting. And that's when the offense really went downhill. But when everybody was, still in contention and performing, like leading up to like June, the Cardinals had a very good offense. And they're going to need that offense to win ball games here in 2024. They're not likely going to win many games like 2-1, 3-2, pitching duel type wins. That ain't going to happen very often with the pitching staff that they have, or the pitching rotation, starting rotation, I should say. So when their offense gets shut down, they're in trouble. And it's going to be real tough for them to pick up wins when that happens. And the thing is, yeah, they won a game on Saturday. And they put a few runs up on the board on Friday night and in Sunday's game. But, a couple of catcher's interference calls and some balks and just weird things were happening. And that was keeping the line going during those rallies. Like, you can't rely on that stuff throughout the season. So if you took those calls away, the weird catcher's interference calls, it makes things even worse for the Cardinals. Like, they look terrible at the plate for the most part against the Dodgers, which again, I know they're really good, but they look like they were in a completely different league when it came to facing those starters. Back to the Cardinals pitching for a moment. One thing that certainly stood out in the series was the home run discrepancy, which I just pointed out between the 2 teams. The Cardinals had 1 home run. Paul Goldschmidt hit the 1 home run against Tyler Glasnow. The Dodgers hit 9 home runs. That's right. They went yard 9 times. Say it with me. Against Cardinals pitching, which already leads the league in home runs given up. We're only 4 games into the season, guys. And the crazy part, none of them were given up by Lance Lynn, who led the league in taters given up last year. Kyle Gibson hasn't started yet. So it wasn't him. Zach Thompson got popped for 3 on Friday. Michaelis, 2 on Thursday, 1 for Gio, 1 for Helsley, a painful one last night for Helsley. And then King and Palante gave up 1 each tonight. So they say, the saying is that solo shots won't kill you. But I tell you what, you give up enough of them and they will. All right. So they got to work on keeping the ball in the yard. One of the things that makes the Dodgers lineup so good is that they've got power throughout. And when you make mistakes, they make you pay for them. They crush you. And almost every time a Cardinals pitcher hung a pitch or just missed their spot, the Dodgers weren't fouling it back and going, ooh, so close. No, they're putting them over the wall. They weren't missing, and they would do damage. On the flip side, the Cardinals did strike out 39 hitters in 34 innings. You know, and I want to just point out bad stuff. There was a little bit of good in there, too. I want to give them credit there. Giovanni Gallegos, who was huge in the victory on Saturday. Very exciting stuff at the end of that game. Leads the team with 6 strikeouts in 2 2/3 innings. Lance Lynn, who, after loading the bases in the first inning, oh my gosh, how nervous was everybody watching that? Nobody out, first inning, bases loaded against the Dodgers, and somehow, some way, magic happens, and he strikes out the next 3. Ends up punching out 5 total in his rain-shortened start. Michaelis surprised me, struck out 5 in the opening day game, but I don't want this to all be doom and gloom. You know, it's early in the season because the Cardinals, again, realistically, 5 outs away from earning a series split against the Dodgers, which would have made everyone feel a whole lot better about things moving forward. But we're going to get into my final thoughts on this series. Positive thoughts. We'll get into it next. And those injury updates. Got those coming for you next as well on Locked On Cardinals. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Final thoughts on this series, some positive thoughts, things that just kind of stood out to me. A lot of stuff from Sunday's game since it's, pretty fresh in my head. But Victor Scott II, I know he struggled early on in the series, looked kind of overmatched in a few at-bats there, but starting to look a little more comfortable in the box there. And, he looks the part. He looks the part as the team's top center fielder. If Tommy Edman is gone until, let's say, the All-Star break, I got no problems with Scott in center field the entire time. Now, when Newbar and Carlson get back, it's definitely going to be a tough decision for the team on what they want to do with Victor if he's producing. He had a good night tonight, a couple of hits, and obviously the speed is, it's a difference maker in every aspect of the game. Defensively, he's looked great. Speed on the base pass, obviously that's a problem. Scoring on a ground ball in the hole of the shortstop with the infield pulled in, like they didn't even have a shot. Like, he makes a difference out there with that stuff. And if the Cardinals, the offense isn't clicking so well, I don't know how you take him out of the lineup and think that you're going to be better offensively. So, he was a big part of why the Cardinals had a lead in the first place on Sunday. And interview with his parents on ESPN, that was pretty entertaining. I love hearing T-ball stories about, these guys when they were little wee kids. I love that. I'm happy for all of them. That was really, really cool. Mason Wynn, I think he's going to be just fine. I do. Defensively, the Cardinals infield pretty strong in this series. A lot of double plays. I felt they looked good. And Mason was the standout performer of everybody on the infield, in my opinion. I know people were wondering where he was on Saturday in the situations where a couple of balls that were in Brandon Crawford's area, with Mason's arm, would he have made the play and got me out? According to Ali, it just was a planned day off for him. They've got this stuff mapped out already, and it was a planned day off for him, Walker, and Contreras, so he was doing his best to not have to use them whatsoever. It's game 3, man. Don't kill the messenger, all right? That's what he said. All right. I mean, I feel like you should have all hands on deck here at this time of the year. It's not like we're way into it, but I know what they're doing. They're planning things out to keep them fresh throughout. I understand it, but in the moment, it's probably really tough for him not to put him in for Brandon Crawford in those situations. Offensively, I mean, I think he's going to come around. He had a few good at bats. The at bat tonight, though, the one in the sixth inning when he came up with the bases loaded and one out, and he's facing a pitcher who's all over the place, who had just walked Jordan Walker, had just walked Victor Scott. He's struggling clearly to throw strikes. I mean, Mason's got to be more patient there. That was a frustrating at bat to watch. I know he was trying to jump on a guy who he thought, might just lay a cookie in there on that first pitch. Swings and misses on that one. But the next two pitches aren't even close. I mean, way high, way out of the zone. And Mason misses him by a foot. Strikes out, swings at the first three pitches, and he's gone. I mean, I know he wants to be the hero there. I know he's excited to come through with a big situation and do some damage, but that just was not the right spot to be that aggressive at the plate. I understand his thinking on that first pitch, but after that, you got to bear down. Like, you can't be swinging at stuff over your head. That's crazy stuff. I love Andrew Kittredge. I'm a huge fan of Kit, man. His demeanor on the mound, and they're going to need this dude even more so now that O'Brien and Middleton are out. But I love the way he looks on the mound, and I love that he just looks like he doesn't care. Doesn't even look like he's trying. And yet, there he is, popping 96 and throwing wicked sliders, and I don't know. I'm a big fan of Kit so far. Speaking of Middleton, let's get into these injury updates. He's scheduled to throw off the mound on Wednesday for the first time since he got shut down with that flexor tendon strain in his right forearm. Once he passes that test at the Cardinals complex in Florida, he'll likely face hitters in a controlled situation before going on a rehab assignment at AAA or AA, which is great because, again, you hear the flexor tendon strains, and I know our minds, at least mine does, goes, all right, Tommy John, he's done. And so far, I guess that's not going to be the case. They're hoping that he continues to progress. We're hoping for the same from Riley O'Brien, who's dealing with a similar problem. A day after hitting 8 times in a simulated game at the Cardinals complex in Florida, Lars Nootbaar, played 5 innings, batted 4 times on Saturday. Best part about it, no lingering effects from the ribs that he fractured on his left side on March 2nd. Most likely next step for Newt is for a rehab assignment to AAA Memphis on Tuesday and Wednesday. He is eligible to come off the 10-day injured list on Thursday when the Cardinals face the Marlins in their home opener at Busch Stadium. But Ali made point that there's no certainty that that's going to happen. So don't just assume that Nootbaar is going to be in the lineup and ready to rock in that first game. But it looks like he's coming back when the Marlins are in town. Dylan Carlson received a pain-killing injection into his shoulder on Friday. The club is hopeful that after 48 to 72 hours of rest, he'll be able to resume baseball activities. Placed on the 10-day IL on March 26th, which makes him eligible to return by April 5th. The Cardinals are hopeful that the grade 1 designation of the sprain means he'll be ready to return during the home opening series against the Marlins. Again, Victor looks fine, and there's really no rush there. So I would just make sure Carlson's ready to rock, and he's in a good spot with his not only physically but mentally to come back and be ready to contribute. But again, it's gonna be a tough decision. I don't know what they're gonna do because you saw how Michael Ciani can help this team. He comes in as that defensive replacement, made some really nice catches this week against this weekend against the Dodgers. Like, that's his role. He's got the speed, he's got the glove, and that's who that guy is. And you're not going to keep Victor around to be that guy that just comes off the bench here and there. So it's going to be interesting to see what they decide. Sonny Gray, 36 pitches and 3 innings in a simulated game in Florida on Friday. His next start will come on a Wednesday in a game for AAA Memphis. Ali said if the right-hander comes through his next start with no hiccups, he should be able to make his Cardinals debut against the Phillies on April 9th at Busch Stadium. This has been great news the entire time that it wasn't as severe as we all thought it was going to be when he got hurt in spring training. The Cubs, Justin Steele, is I think he's dealing with a hammy issue now too. So they can be tricky, and it's good that Sonny caught it, stopped what he was doing, and it looks like he's on the path to get back here pretty soon. So it's more positive news than negative, which is nice to hear for once, considering the amount of injuries the team has already endured here in 2024. As for the rest of the division, in case you guys weren't keeping an eye on the enemies, the Reds were down to their last strike on Sunday before getting a game-tying home run from Will Benson and then a game-winning home run from Christian Encarnacion Strand to beat the Nationals. 2-1 to start the year. The Pirates sweep the Marlins in their 4-game series, outscore the Fish 31-17. Remember, the Marlins were supposed to have all this pitching and, be able to shut people down. And lo and behold, 31-17. So the Pirates, I'm telling you, if they stay healthy, they're going to be better than a lot of people thought they were. They really will. Brewers shock everybody, sweep the Mets in their 3-game series, holding them to just 8 runs. All right, I thought they traded Burns, and I thought Woodruff was out. What is this? How are they holding the Mets to just 8 runs in a 3-game series? Meanwhile, the Cubs lost 2 of 3 in Texas to the defending champion Rangers. Mentioned big injury news for the Cubs was that their ace, Justin Steele, hamstring issue, so he's on the IL. Your current standings have the Pirates in first, then the Brewers, Reds, Cubs, and then the Cardinals in the all too familiar last place spot after blowing tonight's game against the Dodgers. They'll head to San Diego next to face the Padres, who have started off the year at 3-3. Supposed to have a crossover with Locked On Padres on Monday, so be on the lookout for that. We'll preview what it looks like between our two teams. The Friars wallop the Giants on Sunday, 13-4. Kyle Gibson set to make his Cardinals regular season debut against Matt Waldron, who, by the way, in case you didn't know, is a knuckleballer. Yeah, great. Cardinals get to face a knuckleballer on April Fool's Day after facing like 10 dudes who threw 99 with the Dodgers. Great. I'm sure this will go fine. First pitch going to be at 8:40 St. Louis time on Monday night. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Cardinals and to JD Sports Radio. Like and subscribe on YouTube and help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason, and we'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.